Good evening, everyone. I'm Yash Rathi and I work as a Learning and Organization Development Specialist with Ford India Private Limited. I'm a life member of Indian Society for Training and Development and committee member of ISTD Ahmedabad chapter. I welcome you all to ISTD Ahmedabad chapter's 46th Learners Forum on Acing Virtual Facilitation. Just a brief introduction about ISTD. So, the Indian Society for Training and Development was established in April 1970 and it is a national level professional and non-profit society registered under the Societies Registrations Act 1860. It has a large membership of individuals and institutions involved in the area of training and development of human resource from government, public, and private sector organization and enterprises. It also has memberships from educational and training institutions and other professional bodies. The society is affiliated to the International Federation of Training and Development Organizations, IFTDO USA, and Asian Regional Training and Development Organization, ARTDO Manila. ISTD organizes training programs all over the country, both at chapter and national levels. ISTD has been designated as the national nodal agency to testing and certification of skilled workers in the organized and unorganized sectors. ISTD is managed by a national council headed by a president at the apex level and managing committees headed by a chairperson at the chapter level. They are assisted by other office bearers and functional committees in a wide spectrum of activities. Just a couple of ways of working before we begin. So all of you would be on mute, so you need to raise your hand to speak, and you'll find that option on your right. There's a questions tab again on your right, wherein you can put up all your questions, and all your questions will be taken up towards the end. Use the chat box to interact and respond to the different questions or different remarks or comments that the speaker asks you to, and give reactions extensively during the session. And I'm sure you can find the reaction tab right below the screen. So today we have with us Mr. Anand Shankar, who is a senior learning specialist at Ford Motors Private Limited, Chennai, with over 13 years of experience in the space of talent management, leadership, and organization development and facilitation. He is an accredited facilitator by DDI for leadership development, certified NLP and emotional intelligence coach practitioner, and a motivational speaker. He enjoys interesting conversations, listening and supporting individuals in their personal and professional development journey. He is an amateur musician and an excellent chef. Anand believes that everything is common sense driven. The problem begins when we try to figure out and draw much sense from common sense. We welcome you, Mr. Anand.
Thank you so much, Yash. A very warm welcome and a very good evening to everybody.
So, today we'll be talking about acing virtual facilitation. Effective delivery of content is more than just presenting content from a set of slides. Just because a facilitator says doesn't mean that participants learn it. A virtual session is supposed to be engaging, highly interactive with a focus on the participants. And an effective virtual facilitator should be able to create interactivity and engagement. In today's session, we'll look at how we can identify the barriers during a virtual facilitation and convert them into enablers, implement quick tools and techniques during virtual facilitation, and understand the importance of engagement during a virtual facilitation. So without further ado, let's get started, and over to you, Mr. Anand.
Thank you so much, Yash, and a very, very good evening to everyone. And I'm so happy to be a part of this conversation here on acing virtual facilitation. First and foremost, you would have noticed that one of the words or the terms that I keep using is conversation instead of a session is because virtually it is most important that you keep it very conversational. So that's tip number one that I would like to start off with. And when we talk about virtual facilitation, one another thing that I very strongly believe is on the one-on-one connect, right? I mean, how do we connect to each of the participants? I see quite a few of us over here, like Umang, Kavin, Suraj, Yogesh, Kamlesh, Dr. Khandelwal, Dr. Chugan, Riti, Dr. Kothari, and I think it is Vishnupriya, if I'm not wrong. So we are all here to very quickly see how virtual facilitation actually can get very, very interesting and very, very engaging. And I also had the opportunity to work with one of our participants here, which is Suraj, who has helped us kind of leverage our virtual presence through his guidance and support through one of his sessions that we had the opportunity to attend. So thank you so much for that as well, Suraj. Just wanted to quote you over there. Having said that, let me very quickly get into the presentation. Uh, is that okay, Yash? I mean, I'm very
Sure,
quickly
please go
getting
ahead.
into the presentation. So, virtual presentation, how do we ace it? What are some things that we, keep probably, this is all something that, like I said, it's all common sense driven, but what are some challenges that you usually face when it comes to virtual facilitation? That's something that I would like to know before I get started. What have you experienced in the kind of facilitation that you have been doing, and what are some challenges that you've been facing? Something that I would really, really like to understand from all of you.
So you may use the chat panel to respond to this particular question.
Okay, please feel free to type in your responses on the chat panel, like Yash mentioned.
So any challenge that you have come across, I'm sure it's been over a year now that we have all been interacting virtually with participants. So anything that comes to your mind that has
And
been a challenge.
I also believe, Yash, I think most of them would have already gotten, quite far, right? Ensuring
Absolutely.
involvement for longer time. That's a fab point, Kamlesh. We will talk about it in a while. One tip again that we would like to share on this particular point, even before I get into the program, is, um, you know, how do we keep it very logically placed, in the sense, if we have a 4 hour or a 5 hour program, how do we logically break it into two parts is something that we very strongly recommend, because the focus time or the attention span of our participants becomes very, very, very difficult, right? I mean, scientifically, or as per study, it is said that 40 more than 45 minutes is it's actually very dreadful for any participant. So that's why we also keep these kind of sessions for not more than an hour, where the attention span kind of goes off. So try and see if you can have a max of 3 hour session at a stretch. In between, you can have probably a break of 5 to 7 minutes when it is virtual. And based on that, I'm just sharing some best practices that we follow and as an organization. So I thought it would be a good start for us, even when we are trying to plan for our sessions, right? So, and the content, as we progress through this particular conversation, I think we would be able to see how the content can be planned and where is the logical stop, and so on and so forth. Right. Thank you so much for that, Kamlesh. Virtual connect to maintain for a long period of session. Absolutely, Suraj. We will be talking about it. I think that's quite similar to what Kamlesh said, I assume. Pradeep says engaging the participants, amazing. Doubtful how attentive participants are, their connectivity, time limit, lack attention. Thank you, Dr. Kandelwal. What I personally do or personally follow is, if I'm audible, if I am visible very clearly, can I very quickly have all of you type Bazinga on the chat panel? Can I please have all of you please type a Bazinga?
Okay, we see a few buzzingers on the screen now. How about rest of the participants also put that up in the chat panel?
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that this is one of the things that we actually get participants to do in terms of getting their attention. Apologies for that. There is a little bit of a fluctuation in terms of the network, so it's kind of going on and off. Nevertheless, so yeah, there is a question over here. I see. Okay. Okay, so it's a good question, which Umang has asked us in terms of, I started my new batch of students just a few days back, and what happened was I just wasn't familiar with the students. Looking at their faces is only possible when we are offline, so they weren't understanding anything. So here is another trick, Umang. Make video mandatory. Okay, a lot of times what we do during our facilitation is we ensure we have our video cameras on, because when we have our video cameras on we get to see the body language, the tonality, right? And it is also okay for you to pull out someone because you have the facilitator authority. Okay, so you have so remember this term, facilitator authority. All facilitators, whoever are delivering a particular program, have that particular authority. So please go ahead and use that particular authority to ensure that you pull out people and you can ask random people questions around, what do they feel, what do they think, ask them for their opinion, point of views. So that doesn't put people on the spot, but at the same time it also helps you gauge how people are. And there are other ways in which you can also have the sessions planned in terms of having those breakout rooms. We'll talk about it. Breakout rooms, we can have those quick pop quiz, we can have a quick poll, we can have multiple ways through which we can, and it totally depends on the kind of platform that you use. And today, if my understanding is right, all platforms have all of these features that are available. So please be mindful that there are quite a few tips and tricks that we have here for you. Yeah, very good evening, Siddharth. So I'm going to now get into the presentation. And very good questions, and thank you so much for participating. I hope my screen is visible, Yash, and to all the others.
Absolutely, Anand.
All right. So, welcome to a session on acing virtual facilitation. Um, I think Yash had already covered this part of the check-in, which is get comfortable. I hope all of you are connected well. And one another thing that I hope to have is all of you getting chatty, right? And participants' audio would be muted all through. Please raise your hands if you have an interaction point or a conversation that you would like to have with me. Direct all your questions to me at any point in time, like we have been doing right now. And raise your hands to be unmuted and share your comments and questions, right? So you can do that as well at any point in time. So on that note, what's in store? Breaking down virtual facilitation, how do we identify strategies, and discuss the technology used for virtual facilitation. So these three are the quick checks that we thought we would be covering as part of today's conversation, right? So what are the elements of virtual facilitation? If I may ask you this question, what are some elements that you think are there as part of virtual facilitation, the different component parts that you should be mindful of, and so on and so forth? Any thoughts? I mean, I'm sure all of you are doing virtual classrooms right now. So what are the different elements that you think are a part of virtual facilitation? I'm not able to see the responses, so yes, could you be a dear and please help me read those
Sure,
responses?
sure. And so far we haven't had any responses, but I guess people are typing in. So Kamlesh says connectivity, and I think
Very
that is one of
nice.
the major components.
Absolutely, connectivity. What else? You're all doing it day in day out, so I'm sure you, or not, if not facilitation, at least connecting with people. There are certain elements to it, right? All right. So I think without further ado, the three parts to it are the what, the how, and the who, right? So the what is about the content that we are planning to deliver for that particular session, for that particular audience, and what part of the content and what part of, or how do we go about this entire thing is something that we need to keep thinking about. Second thing is the technology. Of course, there are multiple ways in which we can use technology and the different platforms that are available. And the third part is who are we really addressing this to, or who is our actual target audience. And I do see that there are people from different walks of life who have been delivering these virtual sessions as teachers, as actual yeah, the why is always there. That is definitely going to be there, but even otherwise, the why is established when you are doing your objectives itself, right? So that is something very, very, very important, right? And
So
Yeah,
Anand, there are a couple of responses in the chat
yeah,
panel.
yeah, I
So
did
Dr.
see.
Neelam says involving audience. Dr. Khandelwal says internet link, interest to learn, and meeting people. Suraj says audio connectivity and video are the elements. Vishnu says preparations, and Kevin Kumar says presentation.
Absolutely. So all these elements are an amalgamation, right? I mean, these are all like quintessentials for any virtual facilitation, if I may use the word. And how do you really go about this is something that we're going to be looking at step by step. So when we talk about the what, right? What starts with the course objective that establishes the why, right? And when the why is established, the rest of it automatically follows through, right? So when we are doing an course objective, remember the associated research is something very, very important. What does the industry say? People love numbers. People love those backing data that you are trying to provide. And when you do your research extensively through multiple benchmark studies and are able to come up with numbers, that automatically substantiates for what you are trying to establish with your respective audience, right? Whether it is school, whether it is college, or whether it is employees that we are dealing with, everybody loves research. I mean, they don't like to do research on their own, but when someone else does the research and gives them the crux of what we plan to talk about, or how does it really get substantiated, this is one of the most influencing factors of your virtual facilitation. Because earlier, when we used to do classroom facilitation, we did not have to rely on associated research much. It was essential, but now it has become a lot more essential, is what we are trying to drive home a message. Internal or external data, which is again based on research. So whether you have done a leadership benchmarking, whether you have done an internal employee benchmarking, a focus group study, what have they said, and so on and so forth, and weaving along with it a lot of stories, analogies, experiences, caselets, or case studies. So this is another very, very, very important aspect of your content. Why is it important, people? Why do you think all these elements that we have put together over here on the screen are important? If you could very quickly, in a line or two, could share your thoughts or views, it would be very nice. Why do you think these elements are important? And any other element that you think is important as a part of the content? That would really be very helpful. Any thoughts? Stories are data with a soul. Absolutely, Umang. I mean, you're a showstopper. Amazing. How about others? Or anything else that you feel is missing over here is also welcome. I mean, you can definitely add to it. But we've tried to keep it as comprehensive as possible because by and large, if you try to bucket all your content together, it will fall into one or the other categories. And a lot of you us have been asking in terms of how do we engage, right? So we engage through stories, we engage through experience sharing, right? We engage through a lot of case studies, caselets, which gets into our what do you say, the breakout rooms, right? The conversations, and the thought starters. So all that, when put together and well blended, it kind of churns out the best of content that you can actually imagine, right? And the gist of it, right? Telling them what you're going to be telling them, and then actually telling them exactly. Case studies are best support, absolutely. And you can draw your attention, most importantly, with the data. They will have those percentages over there, right? So that will immediately catch their attention. So that way you'll be able to tell them what you had promised to tell them, and then you will finally close it with telling them what you promised to tell them, and then summarize it. So basically it is about the intro, body, and the summary. I mean, that's the whole of it. But then how we are trying to infuse the virtual elements is something that we need to be mindful of, right? Now, the technology bit, what are the different platforms that we ideally use? There is, Microsoft Teams. We have this AirMeet now. We have, oh my God, Zoom. Zoom is another one, right? So we have so many different platforms. Google Meet, right? So we have so many different platforms through which we try and, we keep using them in multiple modalities. And the engagement features which are mostly available are polls. How many of you have actually used polls as one of the engagement elements? Has anybody used polls? Yes. Okay, thank you, Kamlesh. I think only Kamlesh has used it. Paul, if you have not used it, it's one of the best way to quickly have a reality check as an audience. Okay, Dr. Khandelwal. But even as a facilitator, when you start using polls, it kind of engages them for that 3 minutes, 2 minutes immediately, and the focus is totally on what you have just launched, right? A surprise, an element of surprise for people, right? Okay, used most of them. That's amazing. Um, yeah, so great, Neelam. So the other modalities that we also keep doing are open conversation checks, right? What do I mean by open conversation checks is when we kind of throw a question into the room, right? How do people really respond, right? For instance, I kind of throw a conversation pointer. For instance, okay, so which one of the elements do you find best for uh, audience engage engagement? Please pardon me my spellings. Yeah, so this is just an opening. So what we do is we kind of open up a discussion. We have people unmute themselves, start the conversation, and the others start building on those particular thoughts and conversations. So that is how the entire thing kind of keeps going, right? So in yeah, simple questions, easy to answer. Absolutely, Kamlesh. Simple questions. So questioning is my style of facilitation. Mostly is asking people rather than telling them. What I go by as a guiding principle is the person who's coming to me will definitely have some basic idea of what I'm going to talk about. If the person is does not have that level of understanding, or is not well versed with the topic that I am trying to deliver, then I would gauge that, I would take cues, and then probably I will have the discussion in a broader way. Otherwise, I will always go with the idea. For instance, all of us, we and of course, by doing that, we shouldn't sound patronizing or condescending. That's also something that we shouldn't be doing. So we have to be very mindful of who our target audience are. So going with that particular thought would be an added advantage, is what I was thinking, right? So open conversations are always it's a beautiful way of getting everybody involved, not just in the breakout room, and giving them exercises. When we talk about exercises, it's about giving them those topics like this one that I given you. I could put you into a breakout room, I could ask you to come discuss, come back, and share your thoughts and perspectives. So that way as well, we could go ahead and have technology be utilized. The audience, I think this is again very, very simple. Who are our audience? What's in it for them? The pitch, application, a lot of relevant examples, inclusive approach, and the pulse. How do we really keep checking the pulse? Like I am doing right now. If you're all like attentive, and if you're all paying attention, can I actually, yeah, breakout rooms, absolutely. Other than the breakout rooms, also, Neelam, we could go ahead and have those conversations. So, when I'm trying to check the pulse, what I say is, if you're all okay for me to move on, can we have a GTG on the chat panel, which means good to go. So, these are all like, quick tips and tricks that we keep using. So, this is something that is, what do you say, licensed, and I'm going to take a patent on GTG. So it's me, it's mine. So I'm still kind of offering it. So this is something very, very simple. You can have a quick check, and with the pulse of the audience, you can go ahead and like this. I have a couple of patented words that I keep using. So this way, these are all small ways in which you can keep engaging. One thing that I kind of missed to share in the beginning of the session is, you would have noticed me trying to talk to people on the chat even before the session had started. It's not about me trying to get pally pally, but it's about me trying to be considerate that someone has actually joined and has have that conversation. That way, my one-on-one connect with each individual becomes a lot more stronger, right? Whether I remember Umang joining us first, followed by Kevin, and then I had the series of others. We had Suraj, and then see. So I remember each of them actually joining the session, as per the ways that the way that it is shown. Of course, I didn't refer to the attendance or attendees list, but I kind of remember. So that's one another thing. When you're trying to engage your audience, always refer to them with their names. So that is one major lesson that I learned and I follow, because it has helped me so far in connecting with people very, very well. Right? When I talk to Suraj, I will say, hey Suraj. When I talk to Yogesh, I'll say Yogesh. If I'm talking to Kamlesh, I'll say Kamlesh, right? So if we are able to take their names and talk to them in that particular fashion, that becomes a lot. You tend to connect with them a lot more. So, who are your virtual learners? Basically, have you observed that people are multitasking? You don't know what I'm actually doing right now, right? Am I watching Netflix, or am I actually looking at the screen? Or, what is it that I'm doing? A lot of us have this habit, or a lot of us, we get into the zone of, or we meet people who get into the multitasking zone, right? Leaders, let me give you an example. Okay, if when we have leadership sessions, that is exactly when we have these multitaskers involved, and they will be like, they'll have one earphone here, and the other is somewhere else, and they are typing, and they will never switch on their cameras. Have you ever observed? They will never ever switch on their camera for the only reason that they will get caught if they switch on their cameras, right? So we insist on people whoever are speaking to turn on their camera. So whenever they're speaking, and we have the so I have this very sly habit uh, of calling out people who have not turned on their cameras or who have not spoken at all, and I will very casually do it. I'll very naturally, organically do it. I'll not say, hey, you have not spoken for so long, but I would say, hey, Yash, would you mind sharing your thoughts around this particular topic, right? So that will immediately alert them. And we have some fun ways in which we also get our participants to really be focused on our session. For instance, what we do is we use WebEx majoritarily in the organization. So we'll unmute everybody and we'll give them a word of caution saying that whoever can mute themselves are paying attention, period. So that is another way of getting a reality check of whether people are. But these are all, you might think these are petty, but trust me when I say this, these are all extremely useful tips when you are trying to deal with certain set of audience, certain target audience that I'm talking about. For instance, all school students, college students, they'll all be talking away doing something else, and if you all of a sudden unmute all of them, you'll get to know what actually they're doing, right? So those are some small, and you can catch them do multitasking as well. Again, do it very subtly, soft pedal it, don't do it um, uh, uh, you know don't push it too hard. That's all I would say, right? So like I told you, data, which is very important. Of people, 65% of people are doing other work on a webinar. Tell me the truth, how many of us are actually doing something else as we are listening to this particular session? Tell me the truth. I know, Kamlesh. Thank you. Thank you for your candor. uh, Great, Neelam. I'm quite happy. But there are people, okay? I mean, they are doing something else. And what is that something else? Is one, 55% are either eating, 35% are using their phone, and 21% are window shopping online. Tell me, what out of these have we been doing? Well, I mean, we tend to do it. Probably, if not in the session, which I'm very blessed, but we tend to do that a lot, right? All of a sudden, there is a pop up, right? The WhatsApp or the Insta, Twitter, whatever. Instantly, we have the habit of, oh, someone sent me a message, right? Or we kind of switch off our cameras, and that is exactly when we have our breakfast time, lunch time, and we don't want people to listen to us chomping, so we kind of tend to avoid that, so we are muting WhatsApp in bed. Yep. So that those are certain things that people keep doing when we are trying to deliver virtual programs. So in virtual facilitation, there are certain things that we would like you to be very mindful of. Starting with, different senses come into play, right? You are not physically present, right? But your ears, your eyes, right, and your senses in terms of what you're hearing and how you're emoting also is very important. So get your listening and reading between the lines hats on. I go, absolutely full on when it comes to reading between lines, and that is why I keep doing a reality check every now and then. Are people being attentive, right? And are people really focusing on what I'm trying to convey? Relationships and trust, which is again a very important thing. uh, Okay. Relationships and trust, we need to build the rapport and maintain confidentiality, because what it's the Vegas rule. Everybody knows the Vegas rule, I assume. Do you all know the Vegas rule? Does anybody want to share? You can raise your hands. I would love to. Okay. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Okay. So whatever we share in this particular, session stays in this session only. So you are not supposed to share any. For instance, in an organization, people might be talking about their respective supervisors or managers. Hey, you know what? This guy, oh God, this guy is one, chaotic fellow and, stupid fellow, my manager. He doesn't like me. I hate him, right? And I'm going to curse him. And so all those kind of conversations keep coming. Those conversations are only meant for the purposes of learning, like they say in IVs, no, for quality and monitoring purpose. It's only for a training purpose. Okay, should not be quoted outside. So please be very mindful and bear this in mind. Technology, yes, it's your frenemy. Murphy, Mr. Murphy has never spared anybody. So please bear with him and always have a backup. I have two phones that I have as a backup, right, for my hotspot in case anything goes wrong. And for the last 3 days, Chennai has been pretty merciful, and God has been pretty merciful. So it's been raining, and there have been a lot of power cuts here on and off. So it's always good to have a backup. Ensure that your laptop is fully charged, and you have your hotspots ready with good internet connection, so that it doesn't get in the way of your delivery. Feedback comes at a different pace. One thing that I have learned all through my virtual delivery is, you can't be impatient. For instance, I ask you a question, right, and I'm waiting for your answer. If it was a classroom session, I know someone is raising their hand, if someone is wanting to say something. But in a virtual session, how do you know whether people are curious, whether people want to share something or not, right? You have to allow them on the chat panel, you have to wait, you have to really give them that time and encourage responses, like I've been trying to do. But nobody is typing anything on the chat panel, which is very, very sad for me, right? So nevertheless, go. Fifth thing is, winging it can be disastrous. Plan and time your engagement, right? Oh, thank God, Umang. So, winging it. So, basically, ensure that you have timed each and every component part of your session thoroughly, and especially the engagement elements, because it is again observed virtually. After every 15 minutes, ensure that you have something that you can bring into play. It can be, something that is very, very impromptu, something that is just on, and you can just get them to do something immediate. But have those tools, or those arrows in your quiver absolutely ready. You never know when it would be useful, right? The tips and tricks that we're going to be talking about in a bit, right? And pair up facilitators. This is something that we have observed, that when we are doing virtual facilitation, there has to be an energy balance. There has to be someone who you can have a conversation with. So when Yash and I were preparing for the session, so I asked him, so Yash, is it going to be conversational? Is it going to be something that the two of us are going to be doing together? So he said, no, there is, this element where you have to do all the talking, you will have to do and then there will be question answer and I'll close. I'm like, okay, fine. But when there is an energy balance or a load balancing that happens between two facilitators who have a good rapport and a good understanding, it actually adds a lot of value. And I talk out of a lot of experience here, team. So it is very, very important that you have another facilitator co-facilitating with you in sessions like these. The breakout room challenges for virtual facilitation. I have already spoken about Murphy's law. So anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Maybe it already has, right? So why worry about what is not in our control? Rather we worry about what is in our control and try to do the best thing possible, in our set, right? Are you able to resonate this, with this, whatever I'm going to show you now? In typical sessions, virtual sessions, you'll see that people don't understand what's in it for me. People are absolutely silent. It's like, I've just logged in and there's nobody who I'm talking to. Thank God I can see Yash's video cam on, so I know that I have some people, and I do see that some people are still going ahead and responding on the chat panel. Yeah. So please don't be silent participants, and can you please type something on the chat panel, or use the emojis to tell me that you're all listening attentively and you're not silent participants. Great. Good for me, Yash. So, so we don't have silent participants here today. And engagement level. So every time, so this was one another engagement level that I try to do whenever I see a silent participation or no responses coming my way at all. Motivation, continuously keep telling them, hey, that's a beautiful thought, brilliant thought, encouraging them to enjoy. You know, once you start encouraging them, you'll see that the participation levels actually go, over the ceiling, and it becomes very difficult to manage such conversations as well. Conceited participants, they'll always try to hide and they don't want to be seen. Like I had told you, all the leadership sessions sometimes technology that could actually go wrong. And basically what we are trying to say is anything and everything can go wrong when it comes to virtual facilitation, because the base on which you are relying the entire thing is your technology, right? If you don't have technology, I think this entire situation could not have been managed in the way that we are able to today. So the world has really moved, to a completely different era, I think, right? So, and the next part that we're going to be talking about is how do we become more inclusive when it comes to, um, you know, uh, when we are having conversations, right? So this is an inclusive society, and if we think you are talking, thinking, or behaving in a non-inclusive way, you'll be excluded. Can you believe that? Can someone tell me, if you could raise your hand and if you could tell me, uh, what are some ways in which you have practiced inclusion in the ways that you have, or sessions that you have facilitated for your people? Yeah, if someone could share any. So if you could raise your hand, please, and please unmute yourself so Yash can pass on the mic to you. I want to see who has raised hands. Nobody. Anybody? How have you?
The
Uh-huh.
the raised hand option is towards your right. So you may want to raise your hand, and the mic would be passed on to you.
Yeah, absolutely, Neelam. Notepads is there. See, inclusivity is not just about gender. Okay, there's someone who's okay. Kamlesh has raised his hand. If you could please pass on the mic to Kamlesh, please.
Sure, I've done that.
Hey, Kamlesh. Good evening.
Very good evening. Am I audible?
Absolutely loud and clear.
Thank you. Thanks. So, as far the involvement is concerned or inclusiveness is concerned, few things that I tried and which has given better result. Like I mentioned, that simple questioning, or maybe one thing that I always do in my virtual trainings, that I give the info or maybe information to the members that if you are with me, raise your right hand. Whatever if I'm saying, just if you accept or maybe you agree with that, raise your right hand. So
Mm-hmm.
in between I keep asking, am I right, are you with me? So probably the answer is in yes. So whenever the answer is in yes, participants they raise the right hand like that, so their consciousness become better. That is the way I have tried and it has given me better result.
Beautiful, Kamlesh. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really appreciate you participating here. Anyone else? I mean, one more person, and probably I can talk about what inclusivity actually adds to. Thank you, Kamlesh. Yeah. Anyone else? Maybe one more person? No? Nobody wants to raise their hand? Don't be shy. Feel at home. Okay. So I think in the interest of time, I'll just move on. So being inclusive is nothing but how can we demonstrate inclusion in terms of gender, in terms of race, religion, right, age. There are so many factors that are. A lot of times we tend to start off our sessions with, "Hey guys, how are you?" Do we or do we not? Yes or no? Yeah. We start off saying, hey guys, do we even notice if there are girls in the group, or if there are people who are senior, junior, right? If there are other segments of people, so we have this very natural tendency of going ahead and delivering a program without taking into consideration the kind of audience, right? The different diverse audience that we are referring to. And a lot of times, tell me the truth, okay? We kind of, okay, I know this is ISTD Ahmedabad chapter. People will kind of immediately start off in Gujarati. People may start off in Hindi. People may start off in their respective vernaculars without being conscious or cautious about the fact that there could be people who may not understand that particular language. So our team is extremely diverse, okay, and I can speak multiple languages, but my team predominantly speaks a particular language, and there is another segment of team from another part of the country who do not understand that particular language, and we are very careful, mindful of the fact that hey, there are this set of people. That's one. I'm just talking about culture, language, but the other thing is in terms of gender, in terms of racism, right? Calling someone so and so, calling someone this and that, calling people names. So you have to be very mindful that you are having fun during your conversations or your sessions that you're delivering, but remember that you should not be having fun at the cost of someone else, right? So that is where your inclusivity really comes into play, right? So a few things that we would suggest as a part of inclusion is turn on your camera to create a close to a classroom kind of an environment. A few minutes, but not too much of friendly interaction. Keep it, they call it small talks, right? Make sure all voices can come forward. I don't hear any voices except for Kamlesh's today. Consider all modes of communication like chat panel, talk options, video, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so here one another thing that I would like to point out is not everybody is very comfortable speaking up. Not everybody is comfortable voicing their opinion in forums, right? So you have to allow those multiple modalities through which people can communicate with you, whether it is the chat panel, and keep monitoring the chat panel. And as you are monitoring the chat panel and you're reading the comment, ensure that you read the comment along with the person's name. For instance, when you would have noticed, right? Neelam using notepads in sessions like finance. Thank you, Neelam, right? So thank them immediately. So those are certain small things that are encouragements for our audience, right? And give others the space to reflect and solicit everyone's opinion, because at the end of the day, we are not here to push our thoughts and our agenda through into people. It's about how we help people uncover, unearth the ways and their thoughts, their opinions, and share it with the larger forum, right? So that is one another thing or a tip that we would like to share with you. I'm going to pause here to see if there are any thoughts, comments, questions that you possibly may have for me.
So you can probably raise your hand and ask a question directly, or you can use the questions tab for the questions, or
Or
for
the
any
chat panel.
remarks or comments in the chat panel.
Okay, someone has raised their hand. Umang. Umang has raised his hand.
Just a second.
Hello, Umang. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. So,
Please call me Anand. I'm not that old, huh? Yes, Umang. Please go ahead.
so what I have observed in this past about 1.5 year of teaching online is that the attention span is, I think, even decreasing from 45 minutes. Earlier, I believed that is the average duration of a lecture is 45 minutes, and I think that is how long students can hold their attention. But what I observed is that these days it is even decreasing. So sometimes what I do is I plan my session that way in small bits of 20 minutes, and at the end of 20 minutes, I generally do uh, some kind of refreshing activity so that they are then back at the peak of their concentration.
Super. So, what kind of activities do you do, Umang? I mean, it'll be good learning for all of us here. So, if you could please share one or two kinds of activities that you do, and maybe I can also share some, more ideas with you, so that you could try them
Sure,
and experiment them with your students.
so
Yes, Umang.
that is generally I am by profession I'm a teacher, so I teach mathematics and physics and science students. So depending on the subject, maybe I just a couple of puzzles or something like that, so that students are refreshed, something that is slightly challenging and related to the subject.
Beautiful, Umang. Beautiful. Have you ever tried group? Putting them into groups, giving them a particular topic, and the group comes and presents that particular topic. There is this a concept of flipped classroom that is coming in. I'm sure you would have heard that, right? For students. So there, we do not teach. It's about them learning and coming back and sharing, and learning not just through books but through research. Now, the whole point of this particular tip for you, Umang, especially, and for teachers is this increases the level of curiosity, number one, right? It creates a lot of healthy peer pressure. You can totally gamify it. I'm talking from an industry standpoint, but you can always gamify it and have a leaderboard over there saying that, hey, this bunch of students are doing, have been scoring this much. This bunch of students have, got these many points lower. So, gamifying it also helps a lot, Umang. Not in a very big, magnificent, and overpowering way, but if you could probably have those small ways in which you could give them, hey, this particular group will talk about this particular so the same chapter can be broken down into several further concepts. Let the students come back and teach each other, so that way two things will happen: the retention will be better, the other is they will go and research, dig deeper, and the most important thing is your life becomes easier, Umang. So this is one thing that we could probably try
Sure.
as part of your teaching methods. So, and alongside of which you could probably get students to give puzzles to each other rather than you trying to break your head around giving puzzles. So you can ask them to challenge each other, have those healthy conversations and debates, put that as an entire storyboard, and have a leaderboard over there saying that, hey, you know what, this team you've got 5 stars and this team you've got only 2 stars. How are you going to make it up? But at the end of the day, let everybody win, but because everybody would have participated. And those who do not want to learn, you can't really do much about it, right, Umang? I mean, even as kids, you can only take the horse to the pond, but you can't make it drink water.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Actually, this students teaching each other was a factor when actually schools were open, and this kind of we used to have sessions where we are just present in the classroom, and students were freely interacting with each other, teaching each other. But I think these days that that particular aspect has almost completely stopped. But I see that we can even do it in our online
Absolutely.
sessions.
What is the platform that you're using, Umang, when you, I mean,
Uh,
for your children?
Zoom.
Zoom, amazing. You have fabulous opportunities over there, Umang. You have those breakout room options. You have those, small group options. So you can think about it. You can prepare your plan in such a fashion that all these elements can be included as part of your engagement.
Great, sir. Thank you so much.
Does that help,
Uh,
Umang?
Definitely, definitely. A lot.
Super. Thank you. Thank you, Umang. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, Dr. Chugan. Group presentations are very effective, and it's about those small ways of how we could push the thinking process of our students and incorporates also. Right. So, So how do we stay positive throughout, right? This is again a very, very, very important thing. A lot of times we ourselves get into the negative zone, and when we spread positivity is how we could spread that positivity amongst our people. So trust me, when I saw the number of participants today, I actually was like, oh, only these many number of participants, is it? And after that, and I was checking with Yash. So Yash, so we have these many number of participants. What do we do? Da, da, da. So he said, no, no, let's go ahead with the session. So I was like, first I was a little heartbroken, but then what is my role over here? I have to demonstrate positivity so that it doesn't drain you at the end of the day, right? So how do you stay positive? How do you stay vibrant all through your session is extremely, extremely important, right? So on that note, how do you stay positive? A few simple steps. While reading comments from chat panel, call out their names, use positive language. You would have heard me say excellent, good, interesting, genuine, right? And acknowledge others contribution and say thank you for that question. Smile when you talk. It warms your vocal cords. And most importantly, it shows the level of and it shows the level of your engagement with people, number one. And it is also something very, very contagious. Okay, you spread that, you receive, when you are positive, you spread the positivity amongst everybody, whether it is 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, or even 100 people. It is contagious, so be very, very mindful of that bit. The next part of it is the energy quotient. Remember, it is contagious. Audience are very intuitive and step into character in the sense, be the facilitator and always be in the zone. So these are certain things that you will keep seeing and getting when you are extremely, extremely positive and you have a lot of energy through your voice, through your gestures, because that is all that people can see you, right? This is all that people can see, the face up to your shoulders, right? So how do you keep yourself upbeat and engage your participants to this? Thank you, Ashok. Thank you so much. So, how do we keep ourselves prepared, right? So, being prepared is one thing that I thought I must add to this particular part of the content. So, before, during, after, remember, before, plan your session, prepare your audience, and leverage diverse voices. Engage early and often, keep it very visual, ensure what you say and what you're expressing actually comes through your voice, the intonation, the voice, everything is extremely, extremely important. Know your audience, which is very, very important. It's like, learning like Legos, right? One step at a time. What could go together and get snapped, and what could come off each other is also something you want to think about. Co-facilitation preparation, like I mentioned earlier, please ensure that you have another person who can be your co-facilitator. Follow through on your promises. If you said that you're going to share some material or something, please ensure that you're following through that promise. Feedback is critical. Please keep taking feedback as we go through that particular session, or keep collecting those feedback. And don't convert content one on one, as in don't try to convert your classroom session into literally virtual session. That will never work. Yeah, so it will definitely, definitely be something that you may want to be mindful of. So the final slide that I have as part of our session today is yeah, I'm so sorry. The final session that we have, I don't think this is the final slide. Sorry, a few more slides to go. I'll very quickly try and summarize. Murphy's law. Just remember, try to manage the dominant learner. Don't have an answer to a question, then try probing a little further. If the chat is dying, what do you really do about it? How do you have lower conversations? So these are all the flip side of what could make your sessions dreadful. Okay, so please be very, very mindful and be aware of these certain factors. Mindset, the Zen mode, basically, again, this is no gyan, but what I wanted to achieve through this is when you are interacting with people, ensure that you're neutral, you're agile. If there is something that kind of falls apart, you are able to pick up and run despite whatever situation. Listen to the unsaid, try and listen to the unheard, unemoted voices of people through chat or through whatever they are trying to say when you're having that actual conversation. Have a plan, but be flexible, because again, you never know what happens when. I've already overshot time by 6 minutes, I know. So please bear with me for another 4 minutes and we'll be done. Recognize all contribution. Like, I have been reading all your comments and I've been acknowledging each one of your comments because it is important to me as a facilitator, and it also shows that you are participating. Be open to experiences, because my experience is just one person's experience, but all of us are put together makes it much, much more enriching, and that is where we draw from the group wisdom, right? So that is one another thing. The platform, I think, just a tech check. I just wanted to quickly run you past this. Test your technology before the meeting, and that's what Yash and I did just before we got started. Ensure that you use a phone line with audio clarity and stability, so that there is no, blaring voice, or there's no background noise. There is absolute clarity, and you are sitting in a place where it is absolutely appropriate. Ensure you're not multitasking using all possible apps on your laptop, because it will choke your internet. Use the mute button effectively to prevent background noise, and keep backups and essentials ready, like I told you already, right? So in all of this, remember, Murphy's law is still applicable, so you never know what could go wrong, because you it probably has already gone wrong. And on that note, I am done with my presentation. Please feel free to ask away any questions or any thoughts or suggestions that you have for me. You can use the chat panel, or okay, someone has raised it. Umang has raised his hand. Yes.
Uh,
Yes,
so,
Amo.
uh, Thank you, sir. It was really a wonderful session. I have got many takeaways, and just a few slide back, I think it was mentioned that keep smiling while presenting, and that will keep your vocal tone uh, very pleasing. And that reminded me of doing something for my voice. Actually, just a couple of months back, I realized that my voice is not as pleasing as I would like it to be. So I am, uh,
1 second, I beg to differ. Umang, you have a beautiful voice. You
yeah.
just have to
So,
give it a little training. That's all.
so what I did was, actually I am also a yoga teacher, and
Ah, okay.
I started a pranayam practice called Brahmari.
Mm-hmm.
And after I started, I think uh, one after 1 or 2 months, I saw that there were some changes in my voice. And the wonderful thing that happened is, in our Facebook group, we have a group of yoga teachers connected via Facebook. So
Oh, wonderful.
one of the teachers, he mentioned that this primary pranayam is actually also providing resistance against this pandemic, the coronavirus.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So I think that is why I brought it up here. All of us are trainers. We are already using voice, and if we consistently practice this Brahmari pranayam, then it will be helpful in our voice, and it will also uh, improve our immunity.
Thank you so much, Umang. And if you want, to improve your voice quality, I have a magical doctor who's present in this session itself, Suraj Kurup. Please do feel free to reach out to him. He is an amazing, amazing voice expert, and he can actually give you a lot of tips and tricks around it, Umang. Please get connected to him as well, because I have personally experienced it, so has Yash. So we can vouch for it, we can totally advocate for it. And if you think that someone else also needs that kind of added voice quality, please feel free to refer Suraj for sure.
Sure, sure.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much, Umang. Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you, Ashok. And thank you, Dr. Chugan. I think that's about it, right? Yes. I mean, over to you.
Yes, so I would now request Dr. Neelam Panchal to give some closing remarks and propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, all of you are present over here, and especially Mr. Anand Shankar, for giving a beautiful and important insights on this topic. Because we are virtually connected and day in and out. There are a lot of issues and challenges that we face, but then we are coming out of that. Then each day it is a new learning. Each day we try to see that how to adopt some different ways. So even if we are adopting a particular way, then also there is something different that happens. For example, the way you did with many a times we ask in the class or ask in the programs, but then how to ask, that is also an art. How to involve people, that is also an art. How to make them compulsorily write something, or how to compel them to be with us, it's also a skill and art. And you have really beautifully shown some of the newer ways and new insights, other than that we generally use. So we are very thankful to you on behalf of the ISTD Ahmedabad chapter. And it was really nice to listen you. Somewhere I would like to have one more session with you at my organization also, because I like some of your points and the way you talk. And importantly, what I felt is how you talk and how you initiate, that itself is very very important from the perspective of the speaker when we are talking. So how you are involving yourself, how you are evoking, and how you are bringing it to the audience, that is very very important. And that is where it makes people, either they are going to be in the session or they are going to do some other work. So that was very beautifully, because many times we listen the session, and after full day, when someone starts, then within first 5 minutes or 10 minutes, people already decide their path, that whether we are going into sessions or we are completely muting ourselves and going in our own world, either in the kitchen or in the laptop or wherever we want. So the most important part of your session was, we all, I mean, even though there may be less number of the participants, but then all 16, 17 who joined throughout the session, I think all were with you, and that is the success of the talk that you have delivered. So on behalf of ISTD Ahmedabad and on behalf of all the members who have joined, I'm really thankful to you for very nice insights and straight away joining to us. And I also thank moderator Mr. Yash, for initiating the process, and for involving Mr. Anand and connecting it with us and our team. So thank you so much, all the people who have joined in the session. And thanks, Mr. Anand, again for a beautiful insights. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is all mine, ma'am, and I'll be more than happy to support you in any which ways in the future as well. Not only in this topic, probably in other topics which are very, very important in this kind of, in this time that we are going through today. For instance, I was telling Yash that we could do something around emotional intelligence, something, and I'm an emotional intelligence coach practitioner as well, so certified. We could probably think of something in those lines also, that we could share for people as well as people around people. So yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, all people who have joined and being over here. But in fact, in this ISTD, we are keeping it open, and we are just, uh, it depends upon the timing and it depends upon the topic. So, whenever people are free and they are attracted toward the topic, they're all there. But then it was a great insight. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Anand, for this wonderful session. And thank you, all the participants, for actually being very lively all across in the chat panel, while raising your hand, while asking questions. So, you actually made this session a real success. So, thank you so much. Take care and have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you and stay safe. Most importantly, please. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everyone. Bye bye.